Veronika, and this is my take on youth work, digitalization, and innovation. And for someone who has been working in the youth sector for about 15 years, for me, youth work has always been that backbone of the society that supports young people to navigate through this real world maze we are all living in. And usually it has been either providing services and offering guidance for self-improvement, personal development, but also that kind of empowerment needed for young people to act as active citizens. And probably today the pandemic has caught us a little bit off guard, but at the same time, it's not so surprising because youth work is characterized by this idea of being flexible, adapting to changes, and dealing with multiple issues. Either it's with the young people at the corner of the society, the most disadvantaged groups, but also regular everyday young people. So youth work has never been about just one thing. It is nevertheless a question if there are things that we could have done better during this crisis as well and during these times. And I think data was and should have been here to guide us a little bit earlier, especially when looking at policymakers and decision makers. And that is, we already knew that young people were the most active internet users. More than 95% of young people in the EU alone were using the internet daily, compared with 85% in the general population. But here was the deal. We didn't look exactly at how young people were using the internet or what for, because the majority of them were connecting mostly for social media or entertainment purposes, and much less for other more meaningful uses. And one was online education, where just 5% of young people were using internet for this, or civic engagement, where just 11% of the young people were using the internet for this purpose. So building on this, we should have been able to spot the gaps that were needed and should have been filled before this pandemic. Even more in this context, the pandemic caught us off guard. And here is the essential question. I know that often we deal with digital as a tool, but is it just another tool, or is it more than that? And here I propose something to look at, because in digital is a coin, so it has two sides. One is the good, and that is the benefits and opportunities that the digital world brings, but it's also another one, and that is the darker one, and that is mostly because of the challenges it brings to the table. I know we are often used to see digital as this mostly communication tool we are all using, even the video conferencing is for that. But to be honest, it is the time, and now should be that time, when we should look in more in depth on how more sophisticated technologies are already being used, and probably not so much transparently or visibly for all of us, but which nevertheless have an impact on our daily lives and on the rights of young people. And this is the way, or the key, I would like us to look at this information, because there are several examples we are becoming aware of. For example, how algorithms used by platforms, especially social media ones, how they are filtering content and information, the friends we get to interact with, the news we are being exposed to. We see countless of proofs where personal data is misused. And to be honest, it's not just by social media, even though it's primarily by those, but also by different technologies that surround us, around the corner, in the street, different sensors or video cameras that are recording our digital footprint and real footprint at the same time. And we have already seen lots of young digital activists suffering the consequences of that, and that is digital surveillance or harassment, which is enabled by internet and technologies. And this is the irony. Digital tools in this case, they were not exactly enablers for more youth participation, but they were literally shrinking the space for young people. And this should be concerning, to say the least. And there is another issue much less discussed in the youth sector, and that is very advanced technologies that are being currently used, for example, by public authorities or public courts when taking decisions. And they are using those so-called automated decision making, basically creating predictions based on our previous behavior and experiences. So in a way, you can have social benefits or even punishments or public sentences that are being decided by machines and technologies that you are not aware of. And here comes the question, what could youth work do or do better? And how could we or should we support young people? And I think this is the role that has to be changed a bit. Youth work indeed has to deal with more than one thing. And one is developing skills and attitudes of young people of how to participate and probably even on the long run, how to integrate in the future labor market. But it has never been about that. Youth work has been about developing young people as individuals and citizens. And with the citizens and the rights part, we have to work most. And I look here especially at what could youth work do. And one should be the change from the inside in terms of developing skills of youth workers. So we look at fastly upgrading everyone. So it's not just a matter of age right now, it's a matter of making the best of the opportunities you have and making technology work for us. And that can be easily done with trainings. And at least we could look at how to deploy and use better the digital competence framework used by the EU. I know it's not new, that needs developments and improvements as well, but at least it should be much more integrated with educators and youth workers trainings. Then we look at new services. Right now, digital youth services should be much more deployed and developed, of course, because now especially these services will not be just another website. They have a specific philosophy and mindset which might not yet grasp, but we will have to, because even in this pandemic, 50% of the young people reported that they felt lonely, that they felt suicidal. So this is the question, what were we able to do during those times? What can we learn from this experience to do better during the next time? And the next approach that we need to deal, in addition to skills and services, is to deal with change from the outside, created by all these new technologies. How can we empower young people to have access to those basic rights, because all problems have not been solved, but also deal with these new digital rights? How can we empower them to be active citizens in shaping the digital world, the so-called digital or internet governance? Because right now, all these technologies have an impact on their right, and they are not aware. We are not aware of that. And this is our role. And with this in mind, I think we have to put high on the agenda issues such youth work and lifelong learning. And it's not just in addition to formal education. There are necessities to be dealt with right now by decision makers through policies, through programs, through funding, because otherwise another generation will be sacrificed. And I think that's the thing we cannot afford, actually. It's a matter of social and financial capital at the same time. And last but not least, no, I do not think technology is the enemy. No, it's really a friend, not a foe. The issue is we still have to put meaning in it. We have just used it, or to a certain extent, technology has used us. We are barely starting to put meaning into it, to use it for the better good, and we can do that. It has so many benefits. We have not explored so many avenues we have not taken, but this is the time to do it in an organized way, in a constructive way, in an educated way, which can in the end help us combat more older problems, more structural problems. And last but not least, I think it is time to be surprised by this changing. At least if we are not willing to change, in a heartbeat, I imagine these things will not change. Digital will not become a part of our lives. At least we should consider it not the new normal, but the reality that is here to stay. And if we are not fully aware of how to do it, at least we have to be open to that and let ourselves be nicely surprised. This in mind, I'm looking forward to the conversation and the debate today. Thank you.